afternoon. I would have loved to be with you to enjoy the wonderful welcoming of the people of Rwanda and the city of Kigali. But due to commitment I could not reschedule, I was obliged to address you by video, which is better than nothing. I bring you greetings from the community of African subnational local governments gathered within the United States and Local Government of Africa, the umbrella organization representative of the Voice of Local Africa. And I bring you the greetings of its president, Madame Fatoumata Abdel Malik, who is the president of the Nouakchott region in Mauritania. For those who are not familiar with UCLGA Africa, our organization held its founding congress in 2005 in the city of Swan, South Africa, to unify the African movement of cities and territories, promote decentralization and autonomous and self-government of local authorities. UCLGA Africa is headquartered in Rabat, Morocco, where it enjoys a diplomatic status as a Pan-African international organization and maintains 5 regional offices in Cairo, Egypt for North Africa, in Accra, Ghana for West Africa, in Libreville, Gabon for Central Africa, in Nairobi, Kenya for East Africa, and in Pretoria, South Africa for the Southern Africa region. UCLGA Africa members were also part of the unification process of the cities worldwide that are governed within the United States and local government, which UCLGA Africa is the regional section for Africa. UCLGA Africa gathers 51 national associations of subnational and local government operating on the continent, and over 2,000 cities with a population of over 100,000 people. Through its membership, UCLGA Africa represents around 250 million Africans. I was asked by the organizers to deliver a keynote speech at this Africa's New Cities Summit around the importance to empower local government in order to solve key social, economic, environmental, and political challenges in Africa. The importance of cities in the economic future of Africa, despite the huge challenges posed by poor urban infrastructure, insufficient access to basic services and housing, resulting in deteriorating living conditions for the majority of city dwellers. I am addressing you in my capacity as the Secretary General of the United States and Local Government of Africa. And for me, it's not a keynote speech, because my intake is that I am in the presence of people that are knowledgeable of African cities, so I don't want to bother you with data that I suppose you all know. What I want to do, rather, is to make you realize the magnitude of the transformational nature of the pace of demographic change and urbanization in Africa. In less than 3 generations, from 1950 to 2010, the total population of the African continent has grown 4-fold, and its urban population by a factor of 10. We are therefore faced with unprecedented change in human settlement in recent human history that makes Africa so unique and central for the future of the world. In fact, we need to perceive correctly the challenges brought about by the huge transformational dynamic of the projected urbanization rate faster than any in the world. And this urbanization is driven significantly by young people. The pace of urbanization impacts all aspects of human life in Africa, and their consequences on the evolution of the relation between human beings and the other species and with nature as a whole. And we are talking here of a continent which is still in the middle of its demographic transformation curve that accounts half of the world population below the age of 18, and that already represents 1/4 of humanity to date, and will weight 30% of the world population by the end of the 21st century. When addressing urbanization and the challenge it brings about in Africa, let's keep in mind the scope, width, and pace of transformation we are dealing with, and I repeat, which is unprecedented in the world. Therefore, we should not be comfortable with a copy and paste approach, which we are tempted to adopt because the use of technologies encrypts in us the belief that what has worked elsewhere in the management of urbanization challenge will work the same way in the African context, which will be a serious mistake. I will be happy if this summit perceives correctly what is at stake, how to use technology to have smart citizens and smart city leaders that are concerned with improving city governance through citizen participation in order to make evidence-based choices following democratic deliberations. There is a need to bring more attention and interest in the management of Africa's urbanization. The future of this continent is heavily linked to the way we are going to manage urbanization, given that cities represent already over 60% of the GDP of Africa. The economic and social future of Africa are therefore more and more linked to the way we will be able to have our cities more productive, more attractive, more inclusive, and more welcoming for women and the young people. For this summit to reflect on a good foot, I wish to highlight 2 or 3 warnings that I consider to have an impactful, for us to have an impactful conversation. 1 year ago, in April 2022, UCLGA Africa organized in Kisumu, Kenya, the 9th edition of the Africity Summit, the most important Pan-African dialogue platform on local governance and UCLG flagship event. This was done intentionally to remind that the bulk of Africa's urbanization is happening in intermediary or secondary cities, the forgotten part of national urban policies in most of the African countries. Concentrating the attention of the management of urbanization only on major cities will be an irreparable error. This is my first warning. Let's have a lens on secondary cities because they are the powerhouse of local economies. They are the places from where we manage rural-urban linkages. They are the places where we invent an economy that is rooted in the need and potential of our communities and territories. So let's not forget secondary cities in our conversation. Second warning, we tend to replicate the models that were fabricated in different contexts. The way we weight the effort that we have to make to address the urbanization challenge is based on solutions that cannot work for our cities. For example, when do you think that we will be able to put in place a centralized sewage system that will cover the whole of the city of Kinshasa in DRC, which area is nearly the size of Lebanon? We need research to find appropriate solutions. There is a need for a shift in mindset from the belief that the economy of scale through centralized system should be the only guide for economic choices and technological choices, while ecology is teaching us that decentralized solutions could be as efficient or even sometimes more efficient than centralized solutions. And the technology revolution in the energy, communication, and over a system can help a big deal towards this new rationale. We need to question and rethink all the technologies in use in city planning and management because some of them are not adapted and can simply not work in Africa. We need to have a research component in any effort to support the management of urbanization and cities in Africa. Third warning, our cities are mainly informal. In most African cities, nearly 70% of city dwellers live in informal settlement. 90% of our people work in the informal economy. Moving African urban economies towards more formal and more decent work is key, and it is a challenge we can take up since we have talented young population, and we know that they have all that it takes to move this agenda forward in the right direction. And remember, more than half of the population of our cities are women. We need a women component in any serious conversation on the management of Africa's urbanization and cities. We should consider that women and young people will be the main game changer in the way our cities will be functioning or not at the service of the population. They need to be listened to because they have different priorities that decision makers need to take into account in order that the management of the city leaves no one behind. Finally, money matters. The way the financial sector treats local government is not appropriate. Access to funding remains a huge challenge. At a high-level African mayoral event organized recently by the African Development Bank, finally, money matters. The way the financial sector treats local government is not appropriate. Access to funding remains a huge challenge. At a high-level African mayoral event organized recently by the African Development Bank earlier this month in Marrakesh, Morocco, in the framework of the African Investment Forum on the theme Leveraging Cities and Municipalities for National Development, the issue discussed was how to go from millions to billions in financing development of African cities. Let's hope that this question will find its way in your deliberation, since responses to it are highly related to the way technology will contribute to city asset management, city on-source revenue, city access to borrowing, and to the financial market. I'm sure that your deliberation will find some ways in addressing this very recurrent question for city leaders. We are calling on our young people's capacity for invention, creativity, and imagination. We are calling on the capacity for response that our universities and research centers must develop to adapt the technological packages currently used in the reality to the reality and scale of the challenge posed by the speed and change in human settlement pattern in Africa. I hope you fruitful deliberation, and I thank you for your kind attention.